Good. The engineering and going to be speaking with me. Good morning.
Good morning, Deacon. Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I am well by the grace of God. Thank you for asking.
Well, since you are a member of the board of Massachusetts Cure, I am, of course, depending on you to talk about some of our experience.
Sure. Happy to do that.
I know I did send you the International Cure newsletter.
Yeah, I think I may have located it here. Just the Pan Africa newsletter.
All kinds of things, because everything is in there. Are pictures on the front of people you and I do not know.
Yeah.
But there are also there's also a picture of Thailand. There's a picture where we were.
Yes.
There was a picture of Rwanda where we were.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a picture of me, I think, in two places. You almost can't see it. But it's Charlie Sullivan, who's the founder of Cure. He originated from Texas. He produced this newsletter for the first time after many, many months, maybe even a couple of years, because of the thing that we're all experiencing, the problem we're all experiencing.
Yes, the coronavirus.
Yeah, and we're having to make an adjustment. Everything is an adjustment.
Yes, indeed.
Mm.
That is
So, anyway, I remember that when I was in Thailand, I asked you if you would come, and you were already in Australia.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
And when you came to Thailand, you did a broadcast.
Yes.
For our program at Global Ministries, and that was very, very interesting, because I was just amazed that we were able to accomplish it.
Yes.
With just you doing it.
Yeah. Technology is an amazing thing. How we've been able to cover the conferences, no matter where we've been. To broadcast from.
Mm-hmm.
From
right. And then, prior to that, no, not prior to that, but after that, we went to Africa.
Yes.
And we went together, because I started using a cane, and I asked if you would come with me and help me, because I didn't know anyone I could lean on.
Yes, I recall it was a privilege. It was a great honor to have.
Yeah, but it was just wonderful that you, my Christian brother, were available to me. That was wonderful.
To God be the glory. I'm grateful I was able to, a life-changing experience.
Mm-hmm. For both of us.
Yes.
I know it is amazing. But we met so many young men at the restaurant. One or two came to the conference, and others were just participants in the. There was somebody that knew you. Was one person who came, and it was just amazing that we were able to get so acquainted to these young men.
Yes.
That, how many years ago was that we were in Rwanda?
I want to say 3, if not more, to be honest with you. At that time goes so fast that I lose track, to be honest with you. But I want to say 3 years.
Yeah, I know. So in any event, the fact of the matter is that several of those young men, adopted me as their grandmother, and they still communicate with me on a regular basis.
Yes, that's beautiful.
And they a couple of them would communicate with you as well.
That's right. Yes, that is true. It's
so
awesome.
there's a lot going on when you meet somebody in another part of the world.
Yes.
And you're doing what I call God's work, doing something for prison reform.
Yes.
Which is what CURE is about, prison reform. I think it's critically important that people get to know us and that we learn something about where we're located.
Yes.
And the people there were just wonderful at Rwanda.
They were indeed.
They were kind and generous.
Yes.
With their attention and their time. Just amazing. Just amazing.
It was amazing.
And then, of course, when we were in Thailand, there was more going on in Thailand because this was before the whole problem with the virus.
Yes.
And there were people from many other parts of the world that were at the International CURE conference in Thailand.
Yes.
And you met people there for the first time.
Correct. Yes.
That was interesting.
Very interesting, yes, it was. And going to the prison there, being able to visit, and learn what they're doing in Thailand. I believe that was the place where the returning citizens, the mothers, got to actually be with their children, which is very unique.
That you mean the infants?
Yes, the infants. Yes, the mothers that were.
Because we went to the nursery, and there was a nursery there, and there were female prisoners taking care of other female prisoners' babies.
Yes.
That was amazing.
Really
that was just amazing. But I often think that I should tell our listeners a little bit more about CURE.
Yes.
Because CURE actually was developed by Charlie and his wife Pauline. And that, as I said, was in Texas, and it was in 1972.
Wow.
That's when they started it. In 1975, they organized a constitution and an annual convention. And in 1985, CURE became a national organization.
Wow.
And established an office in Washington, D.C. So Charlie and Pauline moved to Washington, D.C., and a convention was held every 18 months. But that was prior to the difficulty with the the flu.
The pandemic, the COVID-19.
Yes, right. And in 1991, I established Massachusetts CURE.
Wow.
And of course, you're on the board, and Eric Kennedy is on the board.
Yes.
And our goals are related to prison reform. And there's a number of people, of course, who are members of CURE nationally and internationally who are incarcerated.
Indeed.
Yeah.
1991, it's been some time. And for people whom are, you're during this COVID period because of what's going on with So many places have been on lockdown, and people still can sign up for Cure and become a part of that. And to do that,
Hmm.
how would
Hmm.
they do that? Just write to us here at the Boston chapter. And isn't there the fee or donation? Um,
Yeah, it's $3 a person for someone who's incarcerated.
hmm
It's a small amount, but if they have
Absolutely.
absolutely no money, they can still join.
Okay, great. And that's for that $3 is for an annual contribution, correct?
Yeah, it's an annual fee.
hmm
It's a membership fee.
hmm
Yeah.
So this is the first newsletter, and since the pandemic, because everything has been on hold. I know we usually have the international conference in person every 3 years, correct?
Yes, yes. And actually, there was a plan for us to go to Japan, and I had signed up for it, and I think you and I were talking about it,
hmm
but we had to cancel it because of the pandemic.
That's right.
And ever since that happened, Cure has had to develop the same problem that Americans have had to develop, and that is you can't go anywhere. You can't see anyone.
hmm
You can't be with too many people around you
Yes.
unless you've had a vaccination and now you're wearing a mask in addition to having had a vaccination.
Yes.
And you do both.
I do.
I see you on the broadcast with your mask, and I come into the studio with my mask, but I tend to take it off
Yes.
when I'm sitting at the table
hmm
because we're at least 6 feet apart
Correct.
at the time.
Correct.
So that's important,
It
and I'm
is.
willing to do that, of course.
Yes. Yes.
So that's all of this is important, but the thing for us in Massachusetts is that even though there is the pandemic, I have been able to say something about Massachusetts Cure on my broadcast,
hmm
which I do weekly,
Yes.
and there's always something. It's either the second week of the month is when you're my co-host,
Yes.
and you have talked about prison reform and something you're doing with another elected official that you had done.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
that was the
The ballot box initiative with State Representative Nika L. Ugardo.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
building capacity for returning
Yes,
citizens.
and 2 weeks ago we talked about that on
Yes.
this broadcast.
We did.
Yes, that was very important.
Thank you.
So, I mean, you and I have done a lot of things
Yes.
together because we're in agreement about trying to offer some assistance for people who were incarcerated or previously incarcerated and now living in a shelter
That's right.
because they've been released.
Yes.
That is so strange that they could be released from prison and able to sleep in a shelter, but there are so many regulations in that shelter.
hmm
It's not unlike being in the prison again.
That's right. Yes.
I mean, and I just see that as an observer.
hmm Yeah, it's true. And for,
Eh,
and-
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
And
just-
for those reasons, so many people don't want to be there. Would rather be homeless than to even be in those conditions, having been
Right.
institutionalized. To further be institutionalized is not appealing to them.
Right, and we know that the new mayor of Boston has cleared the sidewalk of the tents, the people who have been living in the tents.
Yes, I haven't been over there most recently, other than seeing it on the news, and so
Mm-hmm.
my understanding is that yes, she's aggressively cleaning the area, and I'm hearing people on the news who are the recipients of having a fresh opportunity to have a start up just the humane conditions of a roof over their head, and
Right.
and to bathe and to use the restroom in privacy. But the challenge becomes many people are concerned about just the
I,
services.
I know it is. It's so important, and people don't even think of that. The people that when we talk about the prison on the broadcast, so many people don't think about it because they don't care about people who are in prison, and they don't realize that they're paying for people who are in prison by way of their taxes.
Sure. Yes.
Are you there?
Yes, I said yes. You're correct. Yes, I'm right here.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's because we probably should let the audience know that I'm calling in from my home, and you are engineering from the studio.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
So maybe there'll be some kind of a copy of this broadcast
Absolutely. Yes. It
put
will.
out by you at some point when we're finished. When we're finished. But that's really important because people don't realize that even if they don't, as they say, they don't give a damn
Mm-hmm.
about the incarceration or about people in prison or about people who have been arrested or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but they're paying for it out of their taxes.
That's right.
So it really is closer to them than they realize.
Yes. Yes. It impacts all of us.
Absolutely. It affects me too. I mean, I'm retired from work, having worked for the Department of Mental Health for 50 years, but I still pay taxes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm still involved with CURE, and I'm still involved with Global Ministries Christian Church, and I'm also on the board of trustees in the condo that I live in.
Wow.
So I'm a little on the busy side.
You are indeed. It's a good thing.
I appreciate it because I believe that the work that I've had to do that's different from what I might have done before um, is is keeping my brain organized.
Deacon, you have a caller that's calling in.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Who is
Good
it?
morning, Morning, Louise. It's Larry Ellison. How are you? Happy New
Oh
Year
my
to you.
goodness, I'm fine. How are you, Larry?
Good, good. I was watching the broadcast, and I wasn't going to bother you, but the topic is so interesting, and just wanted to a little caveat as well. You're talking about mental health, like right now in the police department, not just here but around the country. First responders in the city are dealing with the issue of the vaccine and the mandatory and losing their jobs, and it's really you can cut the tension in the air with the stress. Just trying to figure out is there any suggestions for people with coping mechanisms. Those of us, even though we've been, like myself, been fully vaccinated, are working with people who are under a lot of stress, who are deciding whether or not. And we've had folks who have left the job in the last few days, and those who might be placed on leave.
I know, and they're also. I have been keeping track by way of Facebook on the things that have happened to a variety of police officers while they were doing their jobs.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's another thing too. And I don't want to have you get off the phone without reminding people that the new mayor has got to find a new commissioner for the police department.
Yes. Yes, and that is, I think, taking place. I think tomorrow is one of the, if I'm not mistaken, one of the community forums. I don't know how that's going to take place, whether it's going to be with Zoom or whatever, with
Mhm.
the select committee that she's chosen to engage the community and get their input. That's been a controversy in itself. And one of the members on the that was
Oh, of course. Well, there was a controversy with the acting mayor too.
mm-hmm.
I know it. There was, there's a lot of, when somebody's taking care of your business
Mm-hmm.
and they don't seem to know what your details are, and they don't communicate with all of you, you are upset.
And that's what I say when I talk about the mental health and stress, the anxiety. I can
Mhm.
see it in people that I work with very closely in the changes in them, and I know it has to do with this. And just like struggling with what do you say?
Mhm.
How do you reach out and you know to
I
folks?
know. I know. It's just amazing. It really is amazing. And I mean, we're all having to. That's what I said when I started the broadcast about how we had to make an adjustment to the fact that there was a flu that affected and impacted millions of us.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, we had to change the way we live.
Yes.
I mean, you had to change the way you live in the police department. We had to change the way we operate out of the church. We had to change the way we live in the church on Sunday in the sanctuary. We had to change so many things, like seeing our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. For me, I haven't seen my great-grandchildren on a regular basis, which I used to be able to. And people are feeling bad about the fact that their lives have been adjusted, and they haven't even planned that adjustment.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And to your point there, like Zooms and all those things, and they are okay. They serve a purpose, but there's nothing like that human contact, right? And in my position, in being a first responder, it's not something you can do remotely. So even the way you approach work now, because you still have to go home to your loved ones, is that close contact that would have with people. You're stepping back instead of leaning in,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very difficult, very different, and there's a lot of stress that I think people are walking around with that they don't even know.
Exactly. And a number of police have actually lost their jobs.
Yeah. Yes, and there are more to come because these deadlines are vastly approaching, and that some folks, like you said, I know a couple of people who have already submitted their resignation last week, rather than to be vaccinated, and we're already overburdened with the system being not staffed in the numbers that they are. I mean, we're losing people who have to be quarantined, so that means that the load has to be picked up somewhere else with the support. Even like yesterday, it was, I don't know if you saw the video of the gentleman that was being chased and beaten. He was subsequently beanbagged by the police officers with a knife down near Symphony Hall. It appears that there's some mental health issues there, and these are the type of incidents that with someone who's already charged and stressed the officers, and you have this added on. It's like there's a breaking point for anyone that's a human being.
I know, and I'm really concerned about that because my experience in DMH used to be related to uh, going into the prisons, which I did for 28 years, um, and that was predominantly with people who had committed a capital crime, and I provided drug counseling there. But I also provided um, some kind of service when people were released from prison, so that they could get some mental health treatment. And I'm not sure that has been done for months and months and months.
No. No, well, because everything is a lot of things. I shouldn't say everything, but they have been zoomed, and a Zoom just doesn't capture. It's just like people have to get they have these remote visits with their doctors. The telehealth
Right.
that doesn't. It's nothing like when the doctor's actually putting their hands on you, and checking you for lumps and bumps and things of that nature that you can't see on a screen. So there's that anxiety, that mental health is something being missed. So I think people like yourself, with your experience, we have to bring you out of retirement because it's just there's a shortage. I mean, there's a lot of mental health issues, and I have no background, and I'm not diagnosing anything, but I see the changes in people. A lot of people in my family, but also coworkers and friends as well, and how they interact these days. It's not the same.
I know it, and Larry, I another thing I want to be sure that we are clear about on the broadcast is, who do you work for and what do you do?
Sure, I'm a detective with the Boston Police Department.
I know, and you're a special police detective as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
and you also have your own broadcast, and
yes,
you talk about what's going on with the department, and it includes a variety of police, and that's wonderful. So you have broadened your experience to share with the community what's going on in the police department.
Well, I think it's important to bring your real life experience, right? Because I think people have their interpretation of what's going on, and being a police officer of color, I can tell you it's totally different from me. It's been that way since day one, and you try to say, well, once you sign on, that everyone is the same. But I've been there almost 36 years, and I can tell you it hasn't changed. Some ways it's gotten better, but that aspect of it has not changed. That the things that you deal with being a black police officer are totally different than some of my colleagues who are not, and that's just reality. That's not playing the card.
I'm sure, and I'm thinking particularly in the city of Boston.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to be a black officer in a little suburban community with where you've got some buddies, but when you're talking about the city of Boston, and they hire black officers, things are a little different, I'm sure.
Yeah, a lot different.
Yes, and I'm not even a police officer, but I know what I see. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what the potential is as well. And it's difficult for people like you that do your job, go home, and also are on the phone talking to other people about their problems.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of mental health issues in this country today. I mean, just like I said, if ever a need for people who have an expertise in mental health issues, definitely is needed more. And this was what I was saying, is that being able to get folks to embrace and actually be willing to accept that they may need this help. I think that's the toughest part, especially in my profession, because folks feel like they have to just keep it all inside, and that you have to have this tough macho image of being a police officer, and that we're human beings before we were police officers. And I tell folks, police work is what I do, and it doesn't identify me as a person, because when I retire, I no longer have those powers as a police officer. I still have those powers as a human being.
Right. I know that's critically important, but I want to say again, Larry, that since I've known you for a number of years now, and I appreciate what you're doing, not only as a police officer, as a detective, But as a broadcaster on Mamleo, that's incredible that you have done that, and you're sharing that information with the community, letting the community know what's going on in your life and the lives of other officers as well. That is so important, and I'm so glad that you called. And
Well,
I've
thank
always wanted to have you on my broadcast, Larry.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will definitely come back on whenever you're back in the studio and you're comfortable with it. Just reach out. I will definitely. I'm going to keep listening because I listened and from time to time today. I just felt compelled to call in again because the topic you were talking about down at Mass and Cass, you and Pastor Hobbs, and
yes,
I think it's a temporary fix because, like I said, folks that have mental health issues, and like I said, I have no background and no degree in this, and I'm not. This is not an NL house, but Pastor Hobbs, right? We are creatures of habit, and that's where they're comfortable because they feel connected with the people who are down there that they feel are in the same situation as them.
Exactly.
And even offering them something what we perceive as better to them, it's not because that is home. It's been a place of comfort. So I'm not sure how we deal with that, but I'm going to keep listening. I wish you nothing but the best, and hope to see you soon.
Well, I'm so happy that you were listening, and I'm happy that you called in, and I'm letting you know that you're always available. Even if you call and we're talking about something different, if you say who you are, we'll go right to whatever it is you want to talk about.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, Larry. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, what did you think about that?
I think that was great. I appreciate Detective Ellison always calling in and giving his perspective and support. It's valuable as as a detective and police officer, rank and file, what he experiences and sees. Out there every day. It's always important to be able to get his perspective.
Oh, I know, and I mean we've been on each other's broadcast in the past, but just a minimal amount of time. This time was much better because there's more reality for him to share with everyone.
Sure.
And he did it, and he's just a great guy. That's all.
He is.
Just a great guy.
Indeed.
He knows how to do police work, and he knows the difference when police officers need some assistance.
That's right.
And that's important. That is really important.
Yes.
Wow.
So, he was mentioning the situation on yesterday. I don't know if you saw it on the news, but yeah, that was amazing to see. Literally, they were running down Mass and Huntington Ave as they were, a bunch of police officers had to apprehend a person whom was wielding a knife, and the students talked about how they were, saw this real time and how it impacted them. And I don't know what the conclusion of the situation was. I know they were able to apprehend him, but all the details surrounding what he was experiencing in terms of mental health, that he would do that in broad daylight, be running down the street with a knife in that area. And I believe one of the officers was hurt, not life threatening, but certainly was impacted by the interaction of bringing.
I mean it's really a good thing that the officers wear the proper vest. But if somebody has a knife, it's more likely that they will, they'll be injured in their neck and their face, right where their skin is.
Sure.
So that's, so maybe the vest isn't helpful.
Well, I'm not sure where they were wounded at, but yeah, it just was. It's to see these things happen in real time and then to see them happening so frequently. It just does speak to the mental health that's happening in our community. Even hearing with regard to the mandates that people. I think it was in the North End, Regina Pizza. I think it was on the news that people were they attacked the management for enforcing the vaccine, requirements for people to be able to come into the establishment. Now you have to be able to show proof of vaccination in order to go in, and so people are responding to that in a negative way, and that they're attacking literally the people who are just imposing what they've been told to enforce.
I know, and part of the reason they had to do that was because they don't have enough people working in their restaurant to ask the questions and move people around in the tables and chairs and whatever. So there's just so many things, so many adjustments that people have had to adjust to and accommodate around them, either where they work or where they live or where they're visiting. And it's just something that they, that somebody else doesn't really have the right to take advantage of. But all those things are happening, and that's not fair.
Sure.
It's not fair.
Sure. Yeah, so much going on. I mean, even the anxiety that people are feeling in regards to faith communities. I was thinking about it on last night, and actually thinking about our own congregation and saying faith communities need to be on high alert now post what happened with the Jewish synagogue.
That was another thing that was amazing. That someone from another country who had been in jail came into this country to order that a woman who was a Pakistani but was incarcerated for life be released. I mean, what was that? I mean, how could those people do anything about it?
Well, I mean, the rabbi apparently, said they had gone through some training, anticipating, these kinds of threats, and so they were trained actually, and people are having to go through training in anticipation of, just violence and hate crimes and so forth and so on. So they actually, the rabbi, I think, threw a chair and told the people to run out, and then they were able to make their escape. And then the police did what they did, but they're saying that faith communities need to be on high alert and actually trained proactively in anticipation of these kinds of things happening more frequently, unfortunately.
I know, and that's another thing that's unacceptable. I mean, I don't accept something negative happening in the North End, which is predominantly Italian restaurants, being Italian myself. But the other thing is now we've got this activity against Jews. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Jews are good Americans.
Absolutely.
They do a lot in this country. They've done a lot in this country. They have businesses. Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
It's just amazing. It's just amazing what some people think they can do and get away with.
Yeah, got it.
And they should not be doing. And also this guy that was holding the hostages in the place in Texas. Two young people in the UK were also arrested. Now these two young people might have been his two sons. They weren't identified, but they might have been related to him.
That's a possibility.
Yeah, all kinds of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much
Yeah.
is happening.
Amazing.
It is.
And that's because sometimes when the police and the FBI get some information and they're not sure that they haven't verified the information,
Mm-hmm.
they can't talk about it. They can't say what it is until it has been verified, and it may take weeks or days or weeks before they can confirm what happened.
Yeah. Well, I mean, interesting thing with the gentleman who held the hostages, and apparently he was not on any list, and though he had some reputation and some of doing some things in the past, even being arrested before, but nothing came up on the press secretary for the United States said that nothing, none of the list came up with any flags for this particular individual. That quite candidly, you would think that they should have been some flags that would have indicated that, he would be a person just to look out for.
Exactly. And here we are talking about current problems, and you and I have been talking for days and weeks and years about people who are incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
For example, cannabis has been legalized in Massachusetts.
Yes.
But there are a number of young people who were incarcerated for having marijuana in their possession,
Mm-hmm.
which is what cannabis used to be called.
Mm-hmm.
It was in their possession, and some of them have been incarcerated for 10, 20, 30 years.
Sure.
And they're still there.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they're still there is that the law has to be changed to make the people who had been incarcerated eligible for parole.
Sure.
And that hasn't been done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there's individuals who have been released and their records are still not expunged or sealed. That they wouldn't continue to suffer from something that was illegal that now is legal, though it can still have a negative impact on their record.
Of course. These things, certain things are done, and movies are made of them,
Mm-hmm.
and you hear all the details. But the things that happen to middle class, poor folks, black folks,
Mm-hmm.
does not get handled properly in the prison system.
Unfortunately,
I've had so much experience with that. I know exactly what I'm saying.
I'm sure.
It's amazing.
Yes.
It is amazing. So, anyway, let's see. How are we doing for time? Anybody else call in?
No, not as of yet. No, we got
Anybody chatting?
No, not as of yet. No, we've got about 10 minutes left.
Yeah, because I know how often people tell me that they don't want to call in, and because they have to turn something off and they can't hear the broadcast while they're waiting. But Eric has developed some kind of a system that people can utilize.
Okay.
So sometime when he's on as doing the work that you're doing today, in addition to your being part of my broadcast, is important for him to share again.
Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
So I'm looking at the newsletter, and the newsletter, the international letter that comes out. How I know before the pandemic, how often is it once a year or?
Yes, it used to come out at least once a year.
Okay.
But now it hasn't come out for several years because of the pandemic.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And the people that were doing the newsletter actually, excuse me, producing it
Mm-hmm.
were not available, and now I think the people doing it are different. So that's interesting.
Very
And I
interesting.
mean, just the way that it's set up with the pictures on the front is so different from anything I've seen before in the international newsletter. That it's just amazing.
It really is, and I see.
And of course, almost at the last page is where you might see a tiny photograph of Charlie Sullivan and his wife Pauline.
Wow.
And they're the special, important people who created Cure.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm actually looking at that, and I see one of the gentlemen who I met at several of the conferences who is on the front page, Peter. Peter, we met Peter from, where's he from? Malawi, I believe.
Malawi. Listen to that.
Yeah.
Yes. That's amazing.
It is. It is. So now they have several. I knew when we had gone there, there was not a chapter in Africa. Now there are, it seems as though there may be several.
Yes. Well, that's what happened when we went there to have our conference. Several people came from other parts of Africa and decided that they wanted to develop a cure in their part of Africa.
Yes.
So that happened.
That's amazing.
Yes, certainly is.
That is awesome.
Certainly is. There's so much going on in Africa.
Yes.
In so many ways that we might have to be careful repeating. But it's just incredible.
Yes.
The people who came and who wanted to learn something from us. And they've done something with what they learned.
Yes.
I think that's incredible.
It is. I'm seeing here in the newsletter it's saying, join your country, state chapter, Cure, volunteer to help out. That if there is no Cure chapter where you are, that they can develop. And this is an example of how that's happened from it happening, being hosted in Rwanda. Now several chapters have manifested in the continent.
Wow. Amazing.
It is. It is. It is indeed. And so we don't have any idea when they're going to be resuming, obviously, with what's going on with the epidemic or with the pandemic at this stage. In terms of a in-person conference, there's no even talk about that. You're hearing?
Yes, right. Yes, I'm saying that the adjustment that we've had to make in so many ways, involving so many people under so many circumstances, is incredible.
Yes. Well, got to keep making adjustments because constant is change.
And we know, I mean, with Larry Ellison, a police officer, actually he's a detective, he called.
Yes.
He called to have something to say.
Yes.
Because this whole thing is impacting his life and the police department and other police officers.
Yes.
That's important. And of course, Mamleo is on Saturday morning, so I want to encourage people to listen to that.
Absolutely. 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Saturday here on Boston Bridge.
That's right. That's right. Every Saturday they are on. And Larry is amazing.
Yes,
He's just amazing.
Yes, he is.
He's kind and generous with his information,
Mm-hmm.
and he's correct.
Yes.
That's what's important,
Yes.
is that he's correct. So how am I doing for time?
You're doing good. You have about 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Okay. Well, all right. I'm glad that you were able to make an adjustment
My pleasure.
and not only be my engineer, but be my co-host today,
My privilege.
because Pastor Bruce told me he was not going to be available today or all this week.
Yes. Yes, I'm happy to be here with you. My pleasure. Thank you, Deacon.
Yes, I know, because you and I have been out of country together.
Yes.
And that's a difference. I've been a few places within the country with Pastor Bruce, but not. I don't think I've been out of country with him.
Not yet.
No. So we'll see. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot going on because the Martin Luther King Day. Pastor Bruce developed a group of people from our church to go to the place where Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Uh-huh.
We actually went right to that location.
You did?
Yes.
Nice,
Yes.
nice.
Yes, we brought some teenagers with us. We brought some other people, and it was really important.
Nice.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
very
that is
nice.
important to be able to
He did a good job passing on that information. Of course, I had taken my 2- and 4-year-old little boys when they were little to the time that Martin Luther King spoke in Boston.
Nice.
So amazing, just amazing. And I bought Lynette's book. She wrote a beautiful book with lovely pictures. I want to encourage everyone listening to consider buying her book.
Mm-hmm.
It's just wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yes, she did a good job.
She did. Congratulations.
Yes.
That she marked.
And of course, every single week she provides some kind of Black history to us in our church, which is something. I mean, I went to the Boston school system, and I never learned anything about Black history. Never, until I came to our church. Amazing.
Yes, it is.
Yes. So I want to thank you,
My
Pastor
pleasure.
Hobbs.
My pleasure.
We'll be in touch again. I'll see you Sunday, I'm sure.
Yes, God willing.
Yes. Thank you very much for your help.
My pleasure.
And I assume that I've run out of time.
Yes.
And I hope to be back next week.
Yes.
So, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Larry Ellison, for calling in. I'm so grateful to hear your voice. You are welcome to call in again. Bye.
Feeling like giving up. People care, but not enough. Downside.